before, you wouldn't have to get up and go now. Again, think about it. You don't treat kids in a way you yourself would not want to be treated, right? So when you got to go, you got to go. But you're sitting down now, starting to read a good book, and a third kid comes down. Mommy, there's a monster under my... There are no monsters under your bed. And you go up and you look under his bed. And you say, why is she looking if there's no monsters under my bed? But now you've had it. If any of you come down one more time, you are all going to bed 2 hours earlier, and you start ranting and raving. You throw them in bed. They are crying their hearts out. You feel awful and angry, and then they fall asleep. And then you go look at them, and you feel guilty all night long. Now, all the time you have is ruined. Now, what I recommend, when they were little, it was easier, very easy. I nursed my children. They fell asleep nursing. When they got to be toddlers, the doctor said, let them cry. My husband and I couldn't tolerate that because we said, hey, if we were going to cry, we want somebody to be with us. We'd want somebody to be with us. So I'm going to treat them that way, and I'm glad we didn't. We stayed with them, and what we decided is at 18, they won't want us, at least not us, to put them to bed. So we might as well be with them when they want us to be. So one of us did the supper dishes, the other put the kids to bed. One of us got a break, and there were certain times we weren't sure which one, and it's a real toss-up some nights. But we put the kids down. You go up and brush your teeth with them. It's great modeling. Besides, if you brush your teeth, you rarely make a run on the 7-Eleven because then you got to brush your teeth again. But you model it for them. You're in there brushing instead of them coming down the stairs and you say, did you brush your teeth? After you sent them up to brush their teeth. Well, you know they did. With brushing teeth, we said to our little ones, when they're little, we'll brush your teeth for you. And then when you want to, around 2, they want to start taking over. We say, fine, let us brush it first, and you can finish up. They get a little bit older, they brush, you finish up. They get a little bit older, you go to the dentist, get the little disclosing tablets, and they brush, and once a week they check it and see if they're getting all their plaque out. By 8 years old, we said to our kids, checkups are on us. Any necessary dental stuff's on us. Cavities are on you. You have cavities, you pay for them. And we also said, make sure you have a plan for what you're going to do if you don't brush your teeth. And make sure you have a plan for what you're going to do if you lose your teeth. And one day, my mother took out her teeth. Because my mom took good care of her teeth, but it was in the days nobody taught you about gum disease. And my oldest is looking at my mother and said, Grandma, did you have a plan? Did wonders for our kids brushing their teeth. They're in there and taking good care of the gums, right? But you do it with them, and you model it for them, then you teach them, and then you allow them to do it on their own and let them be responsible for it. But then you tuck them into bed, you rub them from head to toe. Kids need to know that touch is critical to human bonding, and it is not all sexual. And you rub the top of their head across their back, bottom of their feet. And the bottom of their feet does wonders for overactive kids. If you rub the bottom of their feet firmly, for one, it relaxes them. For two, it keeps them in bed. And they can't get out, you know? So you got accomplished 2 things there, right? And you stay with them. Once, and then they'll fall asleep. Getting up and down and you getting angry at them keeps them awake. Once they're old enough to read then, you give them a nightlight. You go in and do your bedtime ritual with them, and then you say to them, you may go to sleep when you're ready. You say, my kid will be up all night. Not true. My oldest had a stack of books the first week. First 3 days, she's dragging to school like this. And I could have said, if you'd have gone to bed early enough, that wouldn't be happening to you. But she had to deal with the pain, and you know, by the 3rd day, she's falling asleep at a decent time, but the novelty had worn off. And you have given them the gift of reading and the gift of the ability to fall asleep without a sleeping pill. What good gifts to give your kids. And then as they reach the teen years, you have to decide, do we need the house or do they get it? And that's a legit question. Some of you need more sleep than your teenager needs, so you say, kid, lock up. When you're done, turn the lights out. Others of you are like I was, and I said, I need the time alone at night. So at 9:30, you need to be in your bedroom, at your desk or in your bed. Choice is yours. But I need some space here, and I think that's fair. And don't go past your kid's bedroom door at midnight, look in and find them working on a term paper and say to them, if you'd have done that 3 weeks ago, they know that. Some of you stayed up at the end of April all night long. Now, some of you had a spouse who mini-lectured you. If you'd have done the taxes in January, you wouldn't be doing them tonight. But you did it because there's a consequence if you don't. There is tremendous dignity if a kid overcomes what appears to be an unsurmountable odd to reach a goal. There is no dignity when we come up with a good excuse or get nagged. And some of us do such great nagging with such finesse every morning. Hurry up, you've got to be late. Don't forget your gym sneakers. Where's your library books, your term paper? Nag, 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 nag. Kid toodles off school, great shape. Parent is bordering on a coronary. And the kid says, why should I get hassled when I got somebody else to do it for me? Think about it. Jim Fay calls that the helicopter parent syndrome, where you hover over your kids. Don't hover over your kids. Don't go down and say to your kid, here, let me help you get this term paper done. It's awful late. You ought to be in bed. Let them handle it and drag to school the next day and experience a real-world consequence for holding off till the end. Now, I tend to do my writing for the book companies at the end when the deadlines due. I'm one of those people who puts the outline in after I've written the book. And I always said I did it better that way under pressure. And one day my husband reminded me, how would you know? You've really never tried it any other way, you know. So you might have some kids who are of the same nature. But you let your adolescents determine, within limits, what time they need to go to bed. And if you get a phone call from school that there's a serious problem, that's when you have to deal with it as a sleep problem. And then recognize from the time they're born until they leave your home, no matter what age they are, there are going to be nights that they can't sleep. And so what you need to do is recognize that, and that you have to give them that extra time. And I think you'll find that you will be glad you did. And those of you who only have toddlers, and you're going bananas with getting up and getting down and saying, is there ever such a thing as an 8-hour sleep? Ask those of us who no longer have toddlers. It does pass, and you're going to miss that time. So take the time with them and celebrate bedtime. Fighting? Kids are going to fight. The next time your children fight, the first thing I want you to say is they are normal. Kids who do not fight, when they grow up, make lousy spouses. We need kids who know how to enter into conflict and can deal with it nonviolently. Typical scene in many homes. Two kids are fighting over the TV. We storm in there. Stop it, stop it, stop it, right now. We slam off the TV and say, nobody's going to watch it. We solve it for them. What you need to understand is the slower you walk and the quieter you are, the better your chances of it being over before you get there. And if it's still going on, there's several ways you can handle it. One, you can walk in there and gently turn off the set, model it for them. You turn it off, and they're going, but mom, but mom, but mom. Say, you're both fighting. I like to tell kids what they're doing. You're fighting. You may both turn that set back on as soon as you both have a plan. Now, what do I need? A plan. They never say it nicely, so don't count on it. A plan. One of three things will happen. One, they'll share. Don't count on it. It's rare. We say to kids, share, share, share. You ever watch an adult share? We're more than willing to share things we don't mind sharing. It's the things we'd rather not share we're not real willing to share. Well, kids are people too. One, they'll share. Two, they'll both get up and leave it, and kids will do that a lot. Or three, one of them will come up with a plan they both can live with. As long as the one who came up with the plan did not use brute force or intimidation to get their way, let it go. But if a kid says, I'm going to beat you over the head if you don't let me watch my program, I say, not a good plan, try another one. But if the oldest says to the youngest, if you let me watch my program today, you can have 2 tomorrow. Now the oldest and you know tomorrow's Sunday, there's nothing on. Keep your mouth shut. And the next day when the little one comes up and says, Mom, it's not fair, I say, you know what? I noticed you're always giving in to your big brother. Would you like to learn a few good lines? And we teach them some good lines. Like, hey, I'm willing to let you have one program today for 2 on Monday and Tuesday, and I want it in writing. Now you teach that little one to do that, nobody's going to walk all over him. And you're not teaching him to be a passive, willing victim. We've got to teach kids the lines. So that when they're out on the playground, somebody says, I want that bat. No, I want it. No, I want it. Your kid can say, look, I'm willing to let you have the bat today if I can have it on playground on Tuesday and Wednesday. Or to look the situation over very carefully, too. I always tell kids, look it over. Don't get aggressive and don't get passive. Be assertive. And if it looks shaky, don't get aggressive, you're going to lose. Don't go run into the teacher. Don't go run into your parents. You'll set yourself up as a passive, willing victim. Every kid in school and in the neighborhood is going to pick on you. I say be assertive. And part of being assertive sometimes is saying, I didn't want the bat anyway, it's yours, because the kid's bigger. And you're not being passive, you're just saying, looking it over very carefully. If you don't think you can get the bat back and still be in one piece, just get out of there. We want to teach kids. They don't shoot one another on the LA freeway when somebody pulls out in front of you. But that you can look a situation over and deal with it nonviolently. So you teach them. We got another problem. Two kids are playing a game. And the more competitive games you have in your home, the more friction you're going to have, by the way. And I believe the more cooperative games you have, the less friction you're going to have. Because who did what? He didn't turn the spinner right. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Doesn't happen in a lot of cooperative games. But we've got a competitive game going here, and one kid says, he moved the spinner too far, and the other kid says, no, I didn't, and you didn't see it. By the way, I do not deal with what I can't see unless there's blood or serious damage. And I mean that, because I used to work with troubled kids, and I swear if they were within 10 feet of a fight, they were blamed for it. And I would rather not accuse a kid than falsely accuse a kid. And if you've got one child in your family that all the others know gets into trouble a lot, that kid's going to get blamed for a lot, whether he did it or not. And so I would rather err in not accusing than in falsely accusing. That doesn't mean I'm not terribly observant. But I'm not going to go up there and say, okay, Johnny, you know you did this last week with the other little kid you were playing with. Now, why do you always say, I'm not going to say that. I walk up to the two of them and I say, you're fighting. And I don't say, give me your side of the story, give me your side of the story. I've yet to get a news story out of 2 editorials, so I'm not going to bother to try. I just say, you're both fighting. But he did. You're both fighting. Go sit together. Not you go to your room, you go to your room. They'll knock out messages between the walls on how awful their mother is, you know. I say, no. I want you to both go sit together. You may both get up as soon as you both give one another permission to get up. Now, what do I need? We have to say we're sorry. I don't demand an I'm sorry. I'm sorry's got to come from the heart, not the head. You demand an I'm sorry, you're going to get one of two kinds. I'm sorry, real heartfelt, or I'm sorry. I said I was sorry. Kids learn as soon as they hit. If they say they're sorry, they can hit again. Now, Maria, you tell Joe when he can get up. Joe, you tell Maria when she can get up. You may both get up as soon as you both give one another permission to get up. And they both sit there. I ain't letting you up. I ain't letting you up either. Ha, ha, ha. Mom, when can we get up? They're so used to being told when to get up. Nah. You may both get up as soon as you both give one another permission to get up. Pretty soon one of them say, I'll let you up. And the other says, I ain't letting you up. Mom, I said you get up. You won't let me up. You may both get up as soon as you both give one another. Neither can move at this point. If you look at it, both have control over the other person, but that control is dependent on the power of the other person. It's a mutual thing. And pretty soon they both say, this is dumb. I'll let you up, I'll let you up. And they both get up and you say, but they haven't been punished yet. My goal is not to punish, it's to discipline. Show them what they've done wrong, give them ownership of the problem, give them ways to solve it, leave their dignity intact. You say, but they haven't dealt with it yet. You're right. The only reason you have them sit is to cool off. Kids cannot deal with a conflict when they're angry. So when they're cooled off, they will not give one another permission to get up unless they're cooled off. You're not going to hear a kid saying, get up. It just won't happen. So when they finally give one another permission to get up, they can go over and do one of three things with that game. Share, both get up and leave it, or one of them come up with a plan they both can live with. There's one exception to that, and in our home, if you hit, you sit. You sit in the rocker or go to your room. And if it's a neighbor kid, you go to the rocker or go home, no questions asked. The kids need to understand that that is not a way of dealing with conflict that's appropriate. I've had a neighbor kid smack another kid, and before I could even get down to the playroom, he's coming up the steps going, I'm going to the rocker, Mrs. C, because they know at our house if you hit, you sit. You sit until you feel ready to go down, talk with the other person about what's happened, resolve it without hitting. And if a little kid goes up and he sits, he says, I'm ready to go down, I say, just show me you are. I don't make them sit for 5 minutes. Try making your spouse sit for 5 minutes while they're angry. No. You teach them that when you feel you're ready. Now, if a little kid runs back down there and hits again, I say, oh, you're not ready. They go back and sit. They're going to do one of two things. Get very good at sitting or very good at playing. You don't get good at hitting that way. I want to teach kids that there is a way to deal with conflict nonviolently, but one of the ways you teach them is by teaching them to be assertive themselves, not aggressive or passive. And I want them to know the lines. I'm willing to let you do this if I can do this. And they won't have to read the book when I say, no, I feel guilty when they grow up. And they aren't going to let people walk all over them, but they aren't going to aggress their way through life either. And so we take the time when they're in a conflict. It's so much more efficient to solve it for them, tell them to go to their rooms or to smack them. But parenting, again, is not an efficient profession. We need to teach them to deal with the conflict and do it in a way where you've got a problem. What is your plan? All of us are going to get a phone call sometime. I forgot my gym uniform. Bless the parent who says, oh darn, I see it right here on the counter. It's going to be a tough day for you. I know you can handle it. Good luck. Goodbye. You say, wait a minute. No, what I do is I run it down. Now, we might run it down. There are many lectures the kid won't get there. What I have to do, tie this around your neck. This is the last time I'm bringing this gym uniform. You know what kind of time it took out of my day to get this gym uniform? Your brother never forgot his gym uniform, but you bring it to him. Do you know it's not life-threatening in any school to forget a gym uniform? It is painful, but not life-threatening. And you say, wait a minute. You mean I can't ever bring a band instrument or a gym uniform or a term paper the kid worked on all night and left on the counter? Brick Wall family says, never, never, never. Let them feel the pain. Jellyfish family says, all the time. In fact, I'll get it there before he misses it. Those of you who teach have seen that happen. Parent runs in the lunch pail before the bus even gets to school. The teacher hands the kid the lunch pail and the kid doesn't even know he's missing it yet, you know. Backbone family says, yeah, once in a while you can. Once in a while, you can bring something for your kid. There's a time to help your kid out because you treat kids the way you want to be treated. I believe you can bring things. I won't bring a gym uniform because my kids already get to experience a real-world consequence if they forget it. They don't get punished where you have to write 550 times, I will not forget my gym uniform. You know what I tell teachers to do when they do that? Go home and tell your spouse. Don't ask. Tell your spouse to write, I love you 1,000 times. If it affects your love life in a positive way, you may continue to have children write, I will not forget my gym uniform. If it does not, do not. They usually can't after that. But if my kid has to experience a real-world consequence for forgetting it, I believe her chances of remembering it the next time is greatly increased. But I have brought things to school. One day my oldest called and she said, Mom, would you bring my backpack? I said, Anna, what's in that backpack you can't live without? And she started to sob. She said, my Valentine's. Hey, it was second grade Valentine's. I brought it. There's a time you do that. Have you ever locked yourself out of the car, watched yourself do it? I have. I'm on my way to a workshop. I called my husband. I said, hon, the car's running. Keys are in it. I'm not. I need your help. And you know what my husband said? He said, Barb, I'll be right there. That's what I needed to hear. Barb, I'll be right there. I didn't need to hear, that's a bummer. I know you can handle it. You see, there is a time you help your kid out. And those of you who have adolescents, when their car breaks down, don't give them grief about, I told you to check the oil. You know you should have checked the fan belt. I told you that tire looked low. Because I guarantee you do that to your adolescent. 3 weeks later, your car's going to break down. The only kid at home with a vehicle that moves and keys to drive it is that kid. And you'll get the same lecture you gave him. But you don't want to rescue, you don't want to punish, you want to discipline your kids. And you say, well, that's a minor issue. All of us, because we are parents, may someday get the phone call you would rather not get. Your kid is calling you to let you know why they're not coming home. They're making a pit stop at the local jail. 3 families are going to handle it very differently. Brick Wall family, tough cookie, sit. Now the problem with that is what you have just said to your kid is if you're well behaved, I love you. If you don't, I won't. And I want to teach kids that my love for them is not conditional. My likes and dislikes are very conditional. You don't have to like the funny looking hair, the strange earring in the nose, and the silly looking shoes. You don't have to like that. But your love has to go beyond that. But Brick Wall says, tough cookies sit. Jellyfish family gets down as fast as they can. Mini lectures spouse on the way. I told you this would happen if you let them go with those kids. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Mini lectures the kid. I told you not to hang around with those kids. Bails the kid out. Shows up in court for them. Oh, if they even let it get to court. Jellyfish families really do. If they've got connections in the community, they take care of it. So the kid never has to do anything about it. The chances of the kid staying out of trouble are about as good as the energy the kid used up, which is nothing. Backbone family gets down there as fast as they can and said, kid, we love you. You're in trouble, but we know you can handle it. We brought a list of lawyers we think might take your case. Good luck. And you can even star a few if you'd like. But you let the kid do the contacts right there. You bail them out, but you do it on a 90-day note. And you collect something for collateral. And they're real shocked when they have nothing else but their stereo. My stereo, you want my... Hey, we don't take it unless you default in the payment. The bank doesn't get our house unless we default in the payment. You show up in court with them, but you stand behind them. And they may even cut their hair when the best you could get was a ponytail for the family pictures, you know, because it looks short that way, but the lawyer may have suggested that they dress nicely and cut their hair. You stand up behind them and let them handle it. When the judge comes in and starts talking to you, you say, Your Honor, we're not in trouble, he is. You ever seen a nervous juvenile delinquent? It's healthy. And you let them handle it. It is painful, but they will grow in that experience because you've disciplined them. You've shown them what they've done wrong. You've given them ownership of the problem. You've given ways to solve it, left their dignity intact. And I promise you, you will get your money back one of two ways. One, they pay you back. And if they're paying you back in installments rather than balloon, I always like to ask them on a balloon or installment. They're usually so nervous that balloon is out of the question. They don't know what it means. And so they go for the installment. If it's an installment and they're going out on a date in the middle of the installment payments, don't say, you're going out on a date. What are you going to do with the other $50 you owe me? The bank doesn't call you and say, oh, I noticed some airline tickets going through. What are your plans for the house payment? You know, you treat kids the way you want to be treated, right? The one, they pay you back, or two, they don't pay you back. And you say, I get my money back too? Yeah. Because what you do on the 90th day is you take that stereo and hawk it. Take it down to the local pawn shop. And you get your $90. And you hand the pawn shop slip to your child. You hawked my stereo. Well, hey, you say what you mean what you say, do what you say. You say, oh, I couldn't do that. You have an obligation to do that to your kid. You have an obligation to say what you mean what you say, and do what you said you were going to do. Let's look just very quickly at the three children at the 3 ages of rebellion. All 3 kids at 2 need to be able to say, I can be me. Children at 5 need to be able to say, I can be me. And they need to be able to say it in the teen years, I can be me. Now at 2, it's I can be me apart from Mom. And Dad is saying, I don't understand why you're having trouble with this kid. He's such a good kid. Mother's going bananas. At 5, it's against Mom and Dad saying, what's wrong with this kid? Why won't he do anything I need him to do? And Mom saying, it'll pass. I've been through it once already. At puberty, it's against the entire older generation, of which you and I happen to be a member. Let's take that kid at the teen years. All 3 kids are trying to say, I can be me. But brick wall, jellyfish, and backbone family are going to handle it differently. Brick wall. Kid comes in with his hair frizzed. Not life-threatened, just frizzed. No kid of mine's walking out the door with his hair looking like that. You get it straight right now, or you're not leaving here. And the kid goes, darn, I can't be me. Kid comes in, little bit of makeup on. Used to only be girls we were concerned about. No kid of mine's walking out the door with makeup on like that. You get it off your face right now. And the kid says, darn, I can't be me. Kid comes in. Shoes laced from the top down. I do not know why kids do that today. It takes forever to get them on. But no kid of mine's walking out the door with those laces like that. You either lace them right or you're not leaving. Darn, I can't be me. And those are the ones who in my day rolled their skirts in the bathrooms and frizzed their hair and straightened it before they got home. That ought to date me. But the kid is saying, I can't be me. And they need very much to be able to say, I can be me. Jellyfish family. Again, there's the 2 kinds. They don't want to alienate their teenager. They want to emulate them. There isn't one teenager in the house now. There are 3. Mom, Dad, and kid. Kid frizzes his hair. Mother frizzes hers. And the kid says, darn, I can't be me. Kid comes in with a new dance step, not life-threatening or morally threatening. There's a few of those around today. And Dad says, would you teach that to us? And the kid goes, darn, I can't be me. And the kid has to put up with his parents breakdancing at the school assembly. It's terrible. Darn, I can't be me. Kid comes in, a new pair of jeans, and Mom says, can I borrow them? Darn, I can't be me. The other jellyfish family, kid comes in, head shaven, stripe on the side, earring in the nose, odd colors on a variety of parts of their bodies, interesting clothes, and nobody's home. Nobody notices. They're off doing their own thing. So the kid finds somebody who can say, you can be you. Lousy way to do it. Backbone family. Kid comes in with his hair frizzed. You look at him and let him know you don't like it. How can they rebel if you like it? So don't say, oh, hon, don't you remember we used to wear the butch hairdos and all that kind of stuff. They don't want to hear about the ducktails and the butch cuts. They want to know that they can be different from you. And so you've got to let them know, yuck, I'm not going to like this. But you know what, kid? It's not life-threatening. It's not morally threatening. Go for it. And the kid says, I can be me. Different line. Kid comes in with 2 dresses. You pick one, she wears the other. I can be me. Kid comes in with the shoes laced from the top down. And Aunt Lucy, because let me tell you, backbone families catch a lot of grief from relatives. You're going to let your kid go out the door looking like that? It's his head. I can be me. What you have done there is buffered your kid from the big issues, because we're going to have to deal in the area of sexuality and drugs. But all 3 families do it very differently. Brick wall family is don't you, don't you, don't you. And strong emotion and pressure, peer pressure, run into the brick wall. And we have a contest that somebody's going to lose. Jellyfish family, there's absolutely no structure. They haven't taught them about the child's own sexuality. They haven't talked to them about drugs. It's just, oh, it'll never happen. My kid used drugs? Never. I know his eyes are glassy, but he rides a Jeep to school. Absolute denial. Or they say, as we've seen in some of the schools, we call a parent up and say, hey, your kid's on drugs, and the parent says, I told him not to use it at school. They've modeled it and shared it with them. Backbone family, from the time the kid was little, started talking to them about their own sexuality, answered a lot of questions. It wasn't just a one-time sit down, but talked to them as sexual parts of their lives are a part of the rest of their life. And it fits together and helps them grow in the pattern in the teen years of growing to be attracted to somebody, learning to relate to the opposite sex very normally, and that those feelings are very real, that there are limits of expression. And as you grow, you will be able to, when you reach the older years, to form a very strong bond with another human being. But it's taught to them, and we celebrate puberty in a backbone family. You say, celebrate, yes. Your child has his first wet dream or her first menstrual period. You celebrate. We celebrate everything else. And what you have to recognize at that point is it ought to be a true celebration. Give them a gift of some kind from both mom and dad. And if you're separated or divorced, get together if you're still talking to one another and celebrate with that child. And say you have a tremendous right in your body and a tremendous responsibility. And you've got to recognize that. And I remember what I was told, you can make a 3-letter word into a 4, and your own morality will come through. You can't cram your morals down their throat, but you can certainly give them something to reject, which means you talk about it. You celebrate that, and you talk with them, and you give them the gift of becoming their mentor. Because I believe you parent them until they reach puberty. And a backbone family then says, hey, they don't need a parent anymore. What they need is a mentor, a model, and a guide. You guide them through the teen years. In adulthood, they can become your good friend. Some of you are not yet a friend of your own parents. They haven't quit parenting you yet. You have to move out of that role, and as they reach puberty, into the mentorship. But a backbone family has done that. They've let them make mistakes. They've talked to them about, here are some responsibilities, here are decisions, and they constantly increased it. And said, kid, there's no problem so great it can't be solved. And they've taught the kid, you can like yourself, you can think for yourself, and there is no problem so great it can't be solved. Does that mean your backbone family, a kid will never make a big mistake? No. There's no way to totally inoculate them from sexual promiscuity, drug abuse, or suicide. The only way I know to do that is lock them up till they're 30. And then you have an immature 30-year-old on your hands, which I think is far worse than any 15-year-old I've ever met. No. A backbone family, though, will welcome a kid home no matter what kind of mistake they've made. And you say, hey, my kid can always come home. Then maybe you're more backbone than you thought you were. And after you've done all that, and you're kind, caring, consistent, and you're firm, and you're fair, and you say what you mean, and you mean what you say, and you do what you said you're going to do, you've eliminated sarcasm, ridicule, and embarrassment from your vocabulary with your kids. You've got structure around mealtime, around bedtime, around chores, around fighting. You got all that. And you get home tonight and your kids are asleep. I'd like you to walk into their bedrooms this evening and look down at each one of them and remind yourself that there is one thing you and I, as parents, cannot do. Nor do we want to if we really think about it, and that's control our children's will. That spirit to be themselves.